Good evening, everyone. Stephanie Locricchio, Advocacy Liaison with Children's Health Defense, coming to you live for episode 8, The People Rising. And oh my, are the people rising. There is so much happening all over the country, and we're so excited to come to you tonight with our episode of Community Corner. As always, offering you solutions, inspiration, and empowerment to be part of the solution. So I want to start by talking a little bit about some of the mask mandates that we're seeing coming around all over the United States. Here in New Jersey, we played a clip for you last week regarding Governor Murphy's mandate for all of school children here in New Jersey to wear masks in this coming school year. So I've been grappling with this decision on what to do with my son coming into the school year 2021-2022. And anybody that has children knows it's such a delicate balance between their physical health and their mental well-being. It really is something that a lot of parents are struggling with. But besides those points about the children, having your kids in school is convenient. Having them be picked up every single day by the bus, dropped off, gone for hours, especially when you're working full time. I totally get how much of a struggle it is for people to wrap their brains around alternative schooling concepts. I know for myself, it's completely foreign. But, in the times that we're in, and this show is going to be devoted to the people rising and what we can do to be part of the solution, because there are a lot of challenges right now for our families, for our children, and for the future of this country in reality. The things that we do now will set the stage for how the story plays out for years and generations to come. So it's so important in this moment to overlook comfort and convenience. Comfort and convenience are definitely things that we have come to know, being in traditional school, having our lives look a certain way. But the truth is right now, the sacrifices that we make right now will set the stage for the freedom that our children and our families will enjoy later. So I want everyone to come into this program tonight with an open mind and open heart and a place of possibility to think about how all these myths that we have around homeschooling, all these things that we think about really are just that. They're just myths. And when you can open your mind to the possibility of what it looks like to unschool your child and to start fresh, to be able to decide curriculum, to be able to decide what their day looks like, there is so much power in that decision. So today is my official unenrollment day. My son's high school orientation was today, and he made the decision to say that since masks are now required, he is with me. He does not want to be muzzled for another year, so we are unenrolling him, and we are making the sacrifice to look into alternative schooling. And I must tell you, it terrifies me financially from the perspective of being able to figure out what my day-to-day life looks like, but the stakes are too high to keep things status quo. So tonight, I hope that you find the inspiration that you need to take action and to do the same in your neck of the woods. My beautiful co-host, Aimee Villella McBride, coming to you from Florida, has made the ultimate sacrifice. She packed up her family and moved from New York to Freedom, Florida, where she's now living. So I'm going to turn it over to her to give you some updates on what's going on in her neck of the woods. Thank you so much, Aimee.
Yes, and congratulations for making that decision and for your son. I'm proud he was able to make that decision in terms of what was best for him. And I know what that's like. 2 years ago in New York, we lost our religious exemption rights. And so I homeschooled my children as well for the last 2 years in New York. I have 4 children. Now 3 of them are school age. And it is a sacrifice. That first year was incredibly difficult, trying to navigate something that we had never done before, researching endless homeschool curriculums, trying to figure out, the best content to use, looking into co-ops, trying to figure out, the coordination amongst other parents and, your community. And, we talked about this last week on our show. The most important thing is community. Getting together with like-minded people near you to really find the solutions is key. And that is the only way to get through it. And as I shared last week, it was the biggest blessing in disguise for my family. We loved homeschooling. It, was such a beautiful journey. You allow your child to flourish and nurture them in a way that works best for them in terms of their learning style. But for us, we did make the ultimate sacrifice, and we did decide to move out of state, given, what's happening in New York and where we wanted to be ultimately in a state that respects freedom. So, we left behind family and friends and, my husband, a very long teaching career with NYC DOE. So I think we're at a point now in society where people are drawing a line in the sand. We are seeing this all over the country, all different states where parents are rising up. And that's why we're talking about this tonight, the people rising. So there are parents and families all over the country saying, they're done with the masks. They do not want to send their kids back to school for a second year in masks. And they're extremely worried about their state mandating the COVID injection for children for K through 12, which is a scary reality in many states for possibly impending legislation, especially once the FDA approves and licenses the vaccine, which, as we know, is going to be coming quite soon, apparently in a matter of weeks. So we do have parents everywhere who are now saying, now what? Now what can we do? And that's what we wanted to dedicate tonight's show to cover, to give you the tools, to give you the resources, to know how to push back, and to share what's being done all around the country. So we actually want to show now a brief clip of what happened in Tennessee, because there's some breaking news out of that state. So I'm not sure how many of you might have seen this. We're going to take just a few minutes to show you a brief clip of parents really active at a BOE meeting. This is probably towards the end of the meeting as the BOE members are trying to exit the school building, and they are coming out to a crowd of angry parents. So I'm not sure exactly what took place prior in that meeting or what the response was from their BOE members, but clearly you can see the parents are upset. So let's show that clip first.
Yeah, we'll roll to the clip. This is happening everywhere, by the way. There were videos coming out of New Jersey. So just know that if you're not showing up at your BOE meetings, you are missing opportunities to have your voices heard. So let this clip inspire you.
There's a bad place in hell, and everybody's taking notes, buddy. Keep that little smug. Yeah.
Good fine job, you boys do protecting us. I don't mind. Really, I'll keep it high.
So as you can see, these parents are furious, as they should be, right? I mean, we know that children are mostly completely unaffected by COVID, 99.974% recoverability rate. We know there are effective treatments out there. And the thought to these parents of having to muzzle their children, to send them to school for a second year with, germ-ridden, bacteria-ridden, face cloths that just don't do anything. Don't do anything for children. I mean, the science is clear. We ran an episode a few weeks back with experts, OSHA experts and toxicologist experts, Tammy Clark and Kristen Megan Kelly. And, we've gone through all the science on this. So the parents have had enough. And literally in just the last half an hour, the governor of Tennessee came on and declared masks will be parental choice for the state of Tennessee. So kudos to these parents all over the state who stood up. Your governor heard you. Obviously, your BOE members heard you, especially at that school with that angry mob. And this is what it's going to take. This is civil disobedience. We need parents and community members and practitioners in their communities and everyone standing up, pushing for choice. And that's what we're going to dedicate our show tonight about. Specifically talking about the potential for the vaccine mandate as well, because we have a lot of parents in different states all across the country extremely worried about that.
And let's just be real. You and I have been saying this for as long as we know each other, that the vaccine and the mask, they're connected. They're one and the same. The mask is the stand-in for when the vaccine is fully licensed. Like Aimee said, those mandates are going to be popping up everywhere. So if you're up in arms at the thought of being told what you have to do with your child, this is the time right now to be doing what those parents are doing in Tennessee. And I know it takes something. It takes courage. It takes persistence. It takes tenacity. But when it comes to mama and papa bears protecting their children, there is absolutely nothing that we will not do. And that is what this show is going to be about. So Aimee, are you ready to bring on our amazing guests?
Yes, we would love to bring on our guests. So tonight we have Pauline Fidalgo and Jenny Zethner joining us. So welcome to the show, Pauline and Jenny. Pauline is a mom of two children. One is a rising sophomore at University of New Haven, and she also has a rising junior at Comac High School. Pauline was very concerned with the potential for mandates coming for the COVID vaccine in New York, especially given the loss of exemption rights for that state. And she partnered with local moms in her district and activists all across the state to form Vexit New York. And so while this movement's going to start in New York, she's hopeful this will take off nationwide so that parents everywhere can maintain a choice for their children. We also want to welcome on Jenny Zethner. Jenny is a holistic pediatric nurse practitioner. She practices out of the Northport Wellness Center, which is located on the North Shore of Long Island, New York. Jenny specializes in supporting the whole family to live a more organic, green, and healthy lifestyle, aiming to educate families towards wellness by first avoiding the common obstacles that lead to disease. And she also teaches family how to fully embrace this holistic philosophy for the health and wellness of their children and their family. So welcome, Pauline, and welcome, Jenny. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Pauline, I think you're muted if you want to unmute yourself when you have a chance. So tell us a little bit about Vexit New York and, kind of what prompted you to get this started?
Is that a question for Pauline?
Pauline, I think you're muted still, Pauline. You have to unclick the mute button.
I just unmuted her.
Did, but hold on.
There you are. So Pauline, my question to you was, what prompted you to get this whole movement started of Vexit New York?
Oh, I think she's still muted.
I'm unmuted on mine.
You're good. You're good now. You're unmuted.
The host has unmuted your mic. Okay, I'm good.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I think just like everyone else was, the possibility of a mandate, you got me, was really the possibility of a mandate. I was very concerned that they were going to mandate this for our children. And obviously the possibility is still there. And I felt, I was heeding the warnings of people that came before us. I know that John Gilmore and Rita Palmer were saying, everyone needs to leave, you need to do a walkout, you need to do the system. So one day I kind of woke up and I was like, the grand exit, I think we really need to leave, listen to these people that have been doing this for a long time and leave the school system. So it kind of started that way. I spoke to Rita Palmer, who many of you know is a longstanding activist here in New York, and she worked with me in preparing the letters. We started kind of teaming up and try to figure out the best way to handle it. Jenny has been essential in getting me started with the website and just kind of saying we want a choice. That's what we're asking for. We want a choice for our children. We want to be able to make decisions that we feel are going to be good for them and for our families.
Great. So what advice do you have right now for parents who are coming to you? And I'm sure you're hearing from parents within your own district, within neighboring school districts, kind of all over the state, as they come to you to say, well, what do we do now? I mean, there's so many different ways to approach this. So what advice are you giving to those parents?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've heard, mostly I've heard from parents with their college students and the extreme fear and just sort of trying to help to redirect them to understand that, their child still has a choice that might make them not quite as comfortable as they would have been in a normal college year. And then, for our school age children, this mandate is still just, potential. Like you said, it's coming to many, many states. Parents need to be able to make an informed choice. So parents need to be able to put their heads down at night and feel comfortable with their decision, whether they opt to, what their biggest fear is. Is their biggest fear that their child gets the coronavirus, or is their biggest fear that their child gets the COVID vaccine and they have a reaction to it? So which fear? And I have that conversations with parents, because sometimes I have parents and they don't agree, or they have, really close family members who are pressuring them and they need to feel comfortable. They need to be empowered. So that's the work that I try to do with my families when I see them, face your fear, figure out which worries you the most. Is it getting the vaccine and having a reaction, or your child getting coronavirus and potentially getting sick? So in order to make an informed consent, that's what parents need to do to get started on this journey, because it's coming. It's going to be coming to every state. We're aware of that. And how it, I met Pauline and she started talking about this Vexit. That makes sense, to scare our politicians and our, school districts that if this vaccine becomes mandated, we're going to pull our kids from school, is a big message to send. Whether parents follow through, whether they can follow through, is a whole, we'll see what happens, but they need to start to get out and advocate for their children. In regard to the mask mandates, I mean, I think I told you earlier, Aimee, when we spoke, I'm getting emotional about a lot of these Board of Ed meetings. This masking of our children is literally tearing families apart, communities apart, schools apart. And there's volumes of data that these masks don't even do anything. So what are we doing here to our communities and to our children? The advice I give families is to keep your child healthy. We're also stressed out, and when we're stressed, we're going to get sick. So how do we decrease the stress? Talk about diet. Vitamin D is essential, keeping our schedules light, and keep your child home if they're sick. The other day I was in a store and I heard this child coughing and coughing. He couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. And I heard the cough. He was sick. He should have been home. And I turned around and he had a mask on. And it was everything in my power to not say something to this parent, because this poor child, how is he even breathing with this mask on while he's coughing? Clearly his airways are irritated. And how is he getting enough oxygen wearing that? And not only that, but what about the elderly person that's walking through that store that may very well be compromised? Do they really believe that this child who's coughing and hacking away into their mask is protecting them? No, I mean, it's a full sense of protection that, we're seeing, across the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what steps are you actually telling parents to do? I mean, obviously, for a parent or a family to take on the idea,
and I think
Stephanie
also,
talked about homeschooling, it's a huge endeavor to take that on. I mean, you have to make a lot of decisions if you're going to be ready to homeschool, ready to file your letter of intent, ready to figure out your curriculum, understanding the homeschool regulations in your state. And we will be actually covering that next week. So Stephanie and I next week are going to have on homeschooling experts, including an attorney, to walk you through the legal requirements in each state, because it's very important that families, as they consider putting the pressure on their schools, putting the pressure on their BOE members saying, yes, I may pull my kid if this gets mandated. They have to be prepared for that. They have to be prepared to walk that talk and have that plan be ready. So I'm just curious, exactly what steps are you guiding the parents on now? I mean, you're asking them to speak with their legislators. Are you guiding them to go into their BOE meetings? Is it all the above?
Well, I can speak on that. I think, first of all, I want to second basically everything that Jenny was saying, but I also think that parents, with regards to the mask, I think that there are a lot of people that are upset about it, and they're going out there and they're going to their BOE meetings and they're trying to stop the mandate here in New York. I think they're saying that they're push it back to the school districts. That's what we're staying with. We're hoping they don't change that. So I think going to your BOE meeting is super important right now, because I think they really need to hear from us. I do ultimately think that the line in the sand with most people, as you mentioned before, Aimee, is the vaccine. I think that some people will still send their kids to school with a mask, even though we know it work, like Jenny was saying. But I think their biggest thing right now is if they mandate that vaccine, they're going to leave. And I think sending these letters, calling your legislators, getting them out and saying, there's a lot of us that are going to be in the school district if you consider, mandating this. So we really need to work on this now, because I think doing that there's always a possibility that it will stop them a little bit in tracks and say, hey, maybe we need to reconsider this because we're losing, 20% of our school district or something like that. I also think, like I said, the BOE meetings are key, because a lot of these parents are very, very upset. They need to send their letters, they need to call, they need to email, and really get out there and voice opinion, because here in New York, at least, telling us going to be the school district's decision. Contact also, the county health departments, because again, the districts are taking their guidance from them. So if we reach out to the health department and say, hey, we're looking for parent choice, we need to get out there and be very vocal about putting, about our message to them, saying, listen, we're just looking for choice. Please let this be a choice. Masks, vaccines. We don't want to pull our kids from school, but if we have to, we will.
Agreed, 100%. And I think that that's where the convenience factor comes in. And a lot of people are very comfortable in their routines. And the thought of uprooting their lives is something that somehow trumps what's happening right now, which really puzzles me, because letting your child go to school every day with a face diaper that we now know, there was questions at a certain point, but we now know that this is not healthy. We know that the vaccine has had, the injection, as I call it, has had lots of adverse effects. So if this were ever a time to take a stand, I feel like parents should be all in. But I'm interested to hear about what the reactions have been to this whole Vexit movement and what people's responses are at the thought of pulling your child out of school and having to look into homeschooling and all these other alternative methods of education.
You want me to answer, Pauline?
Sure. Whichever one.
Right. I think for me, I think most of the parents, I'm sorry. I think most of the parents are scared. You know, I think we're all scared about how are we going to navigate this. But I think it comes down to the fact that, you know, we're trying to do what's best for our children. If you do not want to, inject this vaccine into your child, then you're ultimately going to have to make that decision and stick with it. And I'm hoping that this movement will hinder it in some way or stop it in some way, because that's really the only thing we can do is put ourselves out there and say, hey, listen, we don't want to do this. We don't want to homeschool our children. But I think, like you said, it's the ultimate sacrifice that you're making by saying, you know, something, I will not comply. You know, I do not consent, as, you know, as many people have been saying all over the last couple of months. My kids happen to be vaccinated except for HPV and flu. But I feel comfortable giving this vaccine to my children, and that is our choice. You know, the website is saying our voice is choice. We're just trying to get it to be a choice. And if the decision has to be made, then we have to homeschool. And again, I do agree. I think it's scary. I think a lot of people are overwhelmed. And what we're hoping to do, just like you're doing, and I know Moms for Liberty also did, is, you know, set up workshops, set up these places where parents can get the information so they do feel a little bit more comfortable and are not as, you know, scared about making that decision.
Absolutely. And, you know, my fear is once this, Jenny, did you want to add anything before I went on to the next question?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure? Okay, good. And the fear is, like, we know that this FDA approval is coming. And, you know, people have already caved to the pressure in the university level of parents having to, you know, get this vaccine for their college age students, even though they don't want to, because they feel forced to have to do it, to give their kids the normal life and let them go to school and all the different things that we're talking about. I keep saying choose your hard, because these are hard choices, but, you know, the hard on the other end of this injection and all these things that we're doing to our children remains to be unknown. So that's a little scary for me, but I'm interested to see what will happen when this FDA approval comes. Do you think that parents will continue to stand against this injection because it is technically still in the clinical trials? Or do you see people caving and saying, well, the FDA approved it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it just so that my child could have a quote unquote normal life? Either one of you can take it, whoever wants to talk about it.
Want to speak first, or?
Go ahead, Pauline.
It's up to you. Okay, so I think that the FDA approving it is actually going to push people forward to, you know, exit, to take their kids out, because I think a lot of parents have been speaking to me for the last couple of months, and they keep saying, well, it's not FDA approved. They can't, they can't mandate it. It's not FDA approved. And I've been telling people for months, I said, it's coming. I said, you know, you can use that argument only for so long. We know that it's going to be approved. Whether it be in 2 weeks, which we're hearing, or it's a month from now. And I think that there's possibility of them saying, you know, it's FDA approved, and then say, okay, you needed to go to school, we'll give you 2 months to comply, is probably something that may happen. So I think that the FDA approval, at least for me and the people in my COMAC community who have been tremendous in helping me to get to, you know, where we are with this movement and just, you know, a force for all of us to kind of move forward, is that this is the time. You know, if you really, this is as you said, this is the line in the sand. We have to make the choice. And I think the FDA approval to me is going to make the movement explode, because it's really, this is it. You're in or you're out. And this choice is going to be a very difficult one for people with little children. Again, my kids are a little bit older. I was fortunate to get a religious exemption for my daughter for college. So I was, you know, blessed and happy that happened for me. But again, it's not going to be easy. The Vexit movement will also be able to continue with helping people get homeschooling resources, you know, really be able to create resources or community or co-ops, even within these individual groups of people that I'm working with, so people feel they're kind of out, you know, out on the street, not by themselves trying to navigate this. And we do know people like yourself, Aimee, that are going to leave. You know, I have a woman in work closely, and she said it many times. She's got 3 small children. She said, if this happens, I have to go, leave the state. You know, for a lot of us, we can't do that, you know, so it's something that I think will hopefully propel the movement forward and not make people say, oh, well, it's FDA approved, now we're going to do this. I think people are like, oh, well, it's not going to happen because it's not FDA approved. And I think the opposite. And I think the other thing people are not looking at is talking about the people, my whole family had COVID already. So why can't that be used? Why is it vaccine or no vaccine? Why isn't it, well, you know, we've had it, we are immune to it, or we feel like we have natural immunity to it. So why can't that be used? I'm not, you know, I don't know. I'm wondering why that isn't the narrative.
These are all questions that make so much sense. And the fact that people aren't just naturally gravitating towards asking them and really demanding answers from their physicians, from their school boards, from their educators, this is something that we need to have answers to. Jenny, for you in the medical setting, I mean, I'm interested to hear from your perspective how people are responding to the idea of this FDA approval.
I have to be honest with you. I think people are still feeling naive and ignorant to this. I think we have a society of parents that think they have a choice. I think they believe that you know, the average person believes that if this vaccine is FDA approved and then mandated, that they have a choice to not give it. And I don't think they understand. Parents don't understand that, you know, across the country here, what do we have? We have New York, California, Maine, West Virginia, Connecticut, and Mississippi, where you do not have the right any longer to a religious exemption or personal exemption. And that's not information. You know, remember, vaccines was never a conversation. You know, people didn't talk about vaccines. It was very invasive. And now it's the first question people are asking each other. So, you know, in those states I just listed, those 6 states, you don't have a choice. So I think parents are living in a world where they think they're going to have a choice to get the vaccine or not. And, you know, for all the other states in this country that do have a choice to whether or not, you know, they have a choice for a religious exemption or a personal exemption, I think they're also feeling naive. Like, I'm just going to opt for this personal or religious exemption, which is great, except that I think kids are going to be segregated. I think we're going to have issue with, you know, sports and music. You know, if the vaccine is mandated and you opt for an exemption, your child may be segregated. So parents still need to, you know, kind of get behind this. And I think, you know, kind of Pauline touched on it. I don't know if the fire is going to start until the FDA approves it and it starts getting mandated everywhere. And then we're going to have parents angry. And that is typically how society works, right? People aren't going to jump on things until it's really in their face. You know, there's a lot of us out there now sort of, you know, attending Board of Ed meetings. I've been at Board of Ed meetings and, you know, we're talking about masks, but they're also yelling and screaming about the vaccine. You know, that's the other piece that parents don't even know. Again, because when did we talk about vaccines as a society out in public with our friends and our neighbors? Never, right? Never. So now, you know, you're attending a Board of Ed meeting and I'm hearing parents say, you know, don't you dare mandate this vaccine. Well, they don't even know that the schools don't mandate vaccines. They don't, you know, it's up to the individual state. So there's so much education that needs to come in, and you know we'll try to provide that on the Vexit website as well for families. You know, and again, you know, parents need to be getting to these Board of Ed meetings to continue to, you know, advocate for the mask to be an option, and then, you know, they can talk about Vexit, where, you know, we hope to get to as many Board of Ed meetings as we can, Pauline and I, in our area. And then what we hope with the Vexit platform is that if it gets out across to other states, that they'll do the same. Go, you know, start on the ground, start with your community, go to your Board of Ed meeting, say, there's a platform called Vexit, school district, Board of Ed, superintendents, parents are going to pull their kids. And if the schools start to hear this and the parents start to hear this, I hope more and more, you know, louder voices will make a change. And, you know, we got to start at the ground and, you know, work our way back up.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, there's always motions and things that you can do that build on one another. And I feel like the more people get out there and have these conversations, the more inspired and empowered other people will. Because I remember back in New Jersey, when we were going down to Trenton to fight that bill, there was so many people that were quietly hiding behind their keyboards, afraid to share their stories, afraid to speak up about it. And I remember saying to people, like, if you're not actively having this conversation, you're part of the problem, because hiding in silence and just waiting for someone else to do it for you has never been the solution. And it's certainly not the solution now. So massive action, coordinated massive action. In order to get a different result, we have to be willing to do something that we've never done before. And I know for myself, I've never thought of pulling my child out of school until this moment, and here I am. So for people that are interested in getting involved with Vexit, whether they're in New York or anywhere else, where can we find that information about this movement and what you all are doing?
So it's Vexit, VEXXITNY.com. And I think the website will be kind of a work in progress right now. When anybody reaches the website, they're going to find, actually in our area. So the Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk County districts are sort of all listed there. But then there's a form letter for any state, any district across the country to personalize. So our hope, right, is that there'll be, leaders in each state, in each area, similar to what, Pauline and I are doing. We're hoping this will reach other people across the country, individual districts, that they'll take this and that take the letter and just run with it, do similarly to what we're doing here. Pauline and I hope to be, to assist any families that have questions and then add more information to that website. Ideally, if we could get, a county, say in, wherever, Tennessee, a school district contacts us and they want to put all of their information on there, their governor, their board of ed, each individual school district, we'll upload it onto the website, similarly to what we've done to our area, so that it makes it very simple for parents to just go to that website, right, find their district, find their letter, and and get it mailed out. So it sounds tedious, but it moves very quickly because it's one form letter. But we'll see how it grows. I mean, we'll see, we're just kind of getting it off the ground here. We weren't sure if it was premature to start because families are really focused on the mask issue right now. But like Aimee said, the FDA approval is coming very soon for the 12 and up. And it's we need to voice our concern that this needs to be choice and not mandated. And this is one way to parents to get started, something that they can do. We don't want to hear parents just complaining and being, go and do something, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And even with the anxiety that everyone's feeling,
super
to
easy.
me, anxiety is the way that you get out of that is action. If you're sitting just waiting, do something. Take your frustration and your angst and take action. That's the only way to make change.
Absolutely. Yep.
Pauline, did you want to say something? I think you're on a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, and I think Oh, okay. No, so I was just saying, like Jenny was saying with the website. Yeah, there's a letter for every district on Long Island. And, that's fantastic. And we were, happy we were able to do that. With actually, my son helped out with creating those letters for all the districts. And then we uploaded them. So, and in New York State, state people, not just take that letter, format it to your district. If you're willing to get it for your area or for your county, then we'll be happy to kind of put that back up on our website. And we're hoping it does go across the country, because I think that would be fantastic. I think that would really show the districts and the politicians and our leaders that this is something that we're passionate about, and we're not going to stop until we're able to have we have the right to make a decision for our children. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. We just want a choice.
That's what we all want right now. So we're so thankful to you for doing this, for putting yourself out there, for spending the time to be with us, to share your efforts, and ultimately for being part of the solution. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
all
much
the
for having us.
initiatives
We
you're
appreciate
taking.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely have you back on to hear how things are going.
Excellent. Take care. Have a great
Thank
night.
you. We appreciate
Take
that.
care.
Bye.
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 Wow. That's inspiring.
Yes. Mom and a healthcare practitioner just taking charge, trying to, make the best route for their kids moving forward. And this is happening all over the country. So we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing parents rising up. The people are truly rising, which is fantastic.
That's what we need. And speaking of rising up, our next guest is definitely making some waves all over the place. So we're so excited to bring on Garrett Ramirez. He's a paraprofessional with 15 years experience working with special education students in New York City public schools. He's also a member of the Steering Committee for Teachers' Choice, a medical freedom activist group comprised of teachers and parents who are 100% against medical mandates, especially ones that may risk the loss of a job, which we're seeing everywhere. Garrett is an activist, avid researcher, and also the founder of Left Against Lockdowns. Welcome, welcome, Garrett. Thank you so much for being here. Let me unmute you.
Hi, Garrett. Welcome. Thank you for coming on the show.
You have to unmute yourself. I don't know why it's not letting me do it.
I think you're still muted, Garrett.
You're still muted. Yeah.
Unmute yourself.
Hey.
Hey, there you are. Welcome, Garrett.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was short notice, but we heard about what you were doing, and we just had to have you come on to talk a little bit about what's happening. New York City is crazy right now. Aimee's out of Florida. She left. I'm in New Jersey. And I knew that it was going to get crazy. I just didn't realize how crazy, in fact, it was going to get. I mean, it surpassed all of my expectations. It's like watching a bad movie happen frame by frame. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we want to do is we know that New York is the belly of the beast. We're watching the recent mandates happening with de Blasio that only allows vaccinated people to enter restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues. It seems segregation is now upon us, especially in places like New York. Can you fill us in with the latest news for teachers in schools and what's happening to them?
Well, the latest news is that you can forego vaccination as long as you consent to be tested every single week. There aren't any specifications yet as to when and where that's going to be. The way that mandatory testing happened in the past for teachers was, I believe, the same way it was for students. It was randomized mandatory testing. If they picked your number, you had to come in. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're an unvaccinated person, only the unvaccinated, then you will be mandated to be tested every single week with a PCR test. We're trying to pressure the union to exercise its collective bargaining rights, which obviously it should have done in the first place. And they said they will do this, but only insofar as sort of moderating the conditions of the test. It may not have to be an in-school test. Maybe you can do it with a private doctor, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have a whole lot of hope with that, however, because, Randy Weingarten, who's actually the president of the National Teachers Union, the American Federation of Teachers, she was initially in dialogue with New York Teachers for Choice and was saying she wanted to listen to us, and we had a couple of good points that she wanted to talk about, but she sort of unexpectedly dropped on us, or allowed de Blasio to drop on us, and even to some extent Biden and Cuomo to drop on us this complete mandate for vaccination or testing.
It's really remarkable that they're requiring the testing, especially like people don't realize that all of these measures, the PCR tests, the masks, the vaccines are all emergency use authorizations. So we have seen over and over again how inaccurate and faulty PCR tests are. We don't know the long-term effects of masking people. We don't know the long-term effects of this injection. So it's remarkable to see all these mandates come down. But I think one of the most inspiring things for me is seeing people's reactions. I mean, I've gotten text messages from teachers and people that I didn't even know were on the side of freedom and medical choice. And all of a sudden here they are popping up out of the woodwork. So talk to me a little bit about this Teachers for Choice group that you formed and the protest that you're having on August 25th, I believe it is. I should pull up my notes. Yep. Okay. So tell us a little bit about some of the efforts that are taking place with the Teachers for Choice Union and that protest.
Sure. Teachers for Choice was formed nearly a year ago. It was principally founded by Michael Caine, who's a nearly 20-year veteran teacher in Queens, and he put up a petition initially opposing the tests because I'm sorry, opposing the regulation for the test and sort of preemptively opposing any mandate for a vaccination in anticipation that the tests, the COVID tests, would be a prelude and precedent for a mandatory vaccination. And we have now have an 8-person steering committee. We have, thousands and thousands of followers on social media and interactions on social media every week. More and more people signing the petition. And, our influence has accrued to the point where, as I said, not only the head of the local teachers union, the UFT, but the National Teachers Union, the AFT, Randy Weingarten, who's a big Democratic Party player, had to listen to us and at least sort of like play along. We started a campaign to withhold our COPE money. COPE is the name for the United Federation of Teachers Political Action Committee that they generally use to help elect Democrats who say they care about education and workers' rights. Very seldom do they follow through on that. There are probably good reasons to stop participating in that political action committee before, but we specifically coordinated that as a protest against the mandatory testing. And we were seriously talking about campaigning for people to withhold their union dues until until the union stood up for medical freedom. And that is when we started to hear from the head of the union, that they want to dialogue with us and hear our concerns and contemplate reforms. In retrospect, that kind of seems to have been a ruse just to get us to back off on withholding our union dues. But now that they, have signed on with the medical repression of de Blasio and Cuomo and Biden, that's back on the table, reviving the campaign for New York City teachers and New York State teachers in general to withhold their union dues.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And let's also talk a little bit more about the background of why we think Randy Weingarten flipped, right? Because initially you were in conversation with her, you had a dialogue going. She was maintaining, there was a neutral stance there. And then her spouse just got elected and appointed to the Biden administration with a federal position, a very prestigious federal position within the Biden administration. And all of a sudden now she completely flip-flopped the union's perspective, and now the mandate is upon you guys. So that's got to be incredibly disheartening, knowing where you were with the dialogue, the progress you were making, and all of a sudden it's just kind of taken away. So I'd imagine the teachers are incredibly upset with that flip-flopping.
Yeah, absolutely. The ones that we represent, absolutely. That was an especially egregious quid pro quo. It's not totally shocking because going back years, despite the teachers union leaders claiming that they supported traditional in-school learning and as much one-to-one contact and even smaller class sizes within buildings. For years and years, they've been talking with the Microsoft Foundation and a bunch of other Silicon Valley lobbyists through this project called Reimagining Education to promote online learning. They call it blended learning, that there'll be some in-person learning as well as online learning, but they don't specify what proportions. So it kind of opened the door even before COVID for online learning to gradually take over in-person schooling. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, Cuomo openly came out saying he was talking with Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt of Google that there would be an official New York State government reimagined education project to totally impose online learning and even phase out in-person learning. And we were reassured that they would deal with the union to be like a watchdog, that the union would supposedly defend in-school learning, when in fact, when you look in the background, it's documented that the teachers union leaders have been dealing with Silicon Valley this whole time to set up online learning to cannibalize in-school learning.
Yeah, it just seems like major conflicts of interest every which way you look. So what is Teachers for Choice, Michael Caine's group, which I know you're, a member of the steering committee now, guiding other teachers on at this, critical point in time, right upon us as school is about to start again, besides maybe, stop paying your dues to put pressure on the union. Obviously you have your protests coming out. What are the other action items that teachers can do at this point in time to maintain choice?
Well, I think they should stand firm, and they should make it clear that they're going to keep refraining from putting any money into the political action committee of the UFT COPE, and they're going to start preparing to withhold their union dues unless the forced vaccination is taken off the table and the forced testing is taken off the table. And we're working with the rank and file of other unions, even to some extent the leadership of some unions like SEIU 1199, the healthcare workers union, who fought for the end of a vaccination mandate, although they're still accepting this testing mandate. But if they hadn't protested the vaccination mandate, even that probably would have gone through by now. But we're working with, on this protest with rank and file and dissident leaders of all the city workers unions. We're talking with, all the dissident caucuses, the opposition caucuses within the teachers unions. The up and coming union leadership, I would say. People like Tremel Thompson, who heads a caucus within the transit workers union, the MTA workers. His caucus is called Progressive Action, and he's a confirmed speaker at the August 25th protest.
Great. Excellent. All right. So with that, we will plug your protest. So everyone, if you are in the New York City area, August 25th at 4 p.m. at City Hall, this is going to be a huge organized protest of all of the unions, as Garrett just mentioned. Please get there, spread the word, share it with other union members that whether they're teachers or any of the other union workers for New York City. I think it's really important, and it's great to hear that, Garrett, that you have multiple unions all standing up together, unified to take action. So I hope you guys get a tremendous crowd on August 25th. Again, it's 4 p.m. at City Hall. And where can everyone follow you guys, Garrett, you and Michael Caine for Teachers for Choice?
Teachersforchoice.org. We have flyers to download for the August 25th protest. I encourage people to print them out and get them out to every city worker that you know, or every family and friend of a city worker that you know. Yeah, this is going to be huge. Great.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Garrett. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And there has never been a more important time for everyone to stand up for our rights. We literally are seeing them slipping through the cracks right in front of our eyes. So again, New York City folks, get out there August 25th, 4 p.m. at City Hall. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Wow.
Big protest.
I'm inspired.
Yeah.
And I'm really like, these conversations that we have make me feel hopeful that not only are people doing stuff, but that we're actually going to win this. Like, right. I really feel like we're going to win this because so many people are doing so many different things. So with that, Children's Health Defense has a multitude of resources and things that you can go to at any time, anywhere to get the information that you need to stand up against mandates and to take action in your school and your employer, with your employment mandates or whatever it is that you're facing. So don't feel that you do not have the resources, because they are there for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and Aimee is going to walk us through everything that's available to you right now on childrenshealthdefense.org.
Thank you. So yes, as we end every week's episode, we want to bring to you the tools and the resources and information so that you can feel confident in standing up for your choice and medical freedom. So first things first, if you're not already subscribed to The Defender, please do so. Upper right-hand corner, it's free to sign up. Fantastic content published from The Defender that you're not going to hear anywhere else. As we know, one of the biggest issues we are facing right now in our time is censorship and the suppression of information. So if you want to hear real news and get real information on anything related to health freedom, medical freedom, please, sign up for The Defender. Also now on our homepage, if we just scroll down a little bit further, we have our emergency campaign area. If you click through there, there are 3 separate pages to assist you in fighting back with mandates, whether you are a college student or you have a child who's a college age student, whether you have K through 12 students and you're fighting the masks or potential vaccine mandates, and then again for employers. So each of these areas is rich with tools and resources. We have template letters for you to use to send out lots of studies, lots of different cited studies, scientific evidence showing the harms of masks, the ineffectiveness of masks, showing the risk and the vaccine injury that's happening. There's long form letters and short form letters and a plethora of outside information and resources for you to use. So we encourage you to really take the time to read all of this, understand it, and figure out what is your best approach in pushing back on any of this. Don't necessarily take a letter and use it, point for point carbon copy. Read it, internalize it, think about it, and make it your own. But these tools are here to help you do that so that you can push back and maintain choice for your family. Also on our homepage, we have our Take Action button. This is our advocacy portal. Look out for this because there's some pretty scary news happening. We have a federal bill that we just got heard of, has no co-sponsors, not picking up any traction yet, and we hope it stays that way and dies. But there is a scary bill out there that is being proposed that would require anyone to be vaccinated for COVID in order to fly in and out of the country. So we're going to have a template letter, have you get in touch with your reps. We want to stay ahead of this as quickly as possible. So that should be going live at some point tomorrow on our advocacy portal. Anytime we have campaign efforts, major action alerts, or legislative efforts needed, this is where you'll find that information. Our show, Community Corner, we air every Monday evening now at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on CHD Live's page. So you come here to CHD Live. This is where you can see our show, as well as all of the other shows that we put out. Bobby's show, The Defender, The People's Testaments, that's Polly's show, and also this week with Mary Holland and Polly together. So tune in for our shows. Excellent content and information there. Again, Community Corner is every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you go back to the homepage and you click on The Defender, you can scroll down and there is another section called Community. And that is where Stephanie and I feature any type of community news that's happening. So bills that are moving quickly across the country, any major news coming out of any states, whether you have a big campaign effort, whether there's a rally or protest coming up, please get to us, get us that information so we could feature it here. Any type of articles or news happening in your state, we want to feature it and get that news out there. So anything you want to share with us, email Stephanie and I at advocacy@childrenshealthdefense.org, and we will get it on our website on the community page to share with you guys.
Perfect. Yes. So there's lots of things there. If you don't feel like you're alone or that you don't have stuff available, there is so much happening so quickly, but just as quick as things are coming out, we are responding with lightning speed to make sure that you are armed with the information and resources to do what you need to do to maintain your freedom and your family's choice. So this is the time, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you want to be a parent eventually, this is the time to get involved in this conversation, to be a defender of children's health, to be a defender of freedom, to be a defender of truth, and rage against censorships and mandates. Now is the time to have these conversations. So make sure that you are out there doing the hard things. It's not easy. We recognize and acknowledge all of you that are out there doing this work, and know that you're planting seeds. You will not see immediate results with these conversations, but every conversation you have matters and it makes a difference. So keep using your voice, standing up, showing up, rising up, and being the change that you wish to see in the world. It is so important now more than ever. And Aimee and I will be here to support you and guide you through every step of the way. We'll be back with you next week at 5 p.m. Eastern. So set your clocks. Make sure you tune in, catch the replay, whatever you need to do, get the information you need. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aimee, for being here.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. So stay tuned next week. We'll have excellent homeschooling advice, day in the life experts. People have done it for their entire family, all different ages, as well as legal guidance for every state in terms of what you need to know for homeschooling. So we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
You won't want to miss it. We'll see you then. Have a great week. Take care.
Bye.